My name is Linda Bloss-Baum. Welcome to American University. Kogod School of Business is so pleased to be hosting this today. You are on a college campus, and so it makes perfect sense that we would have some college students talking about some of the issues, in fact, the one that you just heard about. So you guys can come up to the stage if you want to stay on the stage. These are 5 representatives from our senior Capstone class. And one thing that they are required to do is to put together a presentation for a client by the end of the semester, which is coming to a close in early December. Our client this semester was NIVA. Thank you, Stephen Parker, for your kind words and for being so patient with our students. You and your team have been so wonderfully supportive of our students as they're learning about the issues that we just covered in this panel. So these students have been working with NIVA and very closely with IMP as well. Thank you, Audrey, for bringing us this idea about speculative ticketing, about all the problems that independent venues do face in the current climate. And this is just one of our, we have 3 full sections of the class, so about 110 students taking it this semester under the direction of my esteemed colleague, Dan Coffman, who's a professor of that class. So these are 5 of his finest that have come up with a novel idea about how to solve all of the problems we just heard about. So if you could each introduce yourselves, you can put the name tags down from the previous panel because they might start calling you by your professional names. Be sure to introduce yourselves, and this project is actually due on December 9th, so this is a little bit of a practice dry run for them. So thank you for your patience, and maybe we'll find out how to solve all of these issues with the next great generation of minds. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is our presentation on a private sector solution to the ticketing industry. My name is Ava Vigliotti. I'm a senior and a business and entertainment major.
I'm Maryjane Williams. I'm a senior and I'm a journalism and business major.
I'm Rayyan. I'm a senior and I'm a business entertainment major.
I'm Oliver. I'm a senior and a business entertainment major.
And my name's Peter. I'm a senior finance student here at AU.
Thank you for the opportunity to present in front of all of you today. As Professor Bloss-Baum said, we're a group of students enrolled in the Kogod School of Business Capstone class. For our Capstone project, we are essentially consultants to NIVA, specifically assigned to the ticketing team to develop a solution to the current ticketing problem facing the live venue industry. We would like to note that this is an interim presentation, as our final is December 10th, so we welcome all feedback at this point. NIVA and NIVA members did ask us to focus on developing an informational ticketing campaign. We fully respect and understand the need for it and have certainly incorporated aspects of this into our solution. However, we've developed a different finding based on our research. Today, we will walk you through our findings and solutions we've been working on all semester. With that, let's get started. Sorry, we were not briefed on how to use the gadget before.
There we go.
Oh,
okay,
there you go. Sorry. Okay. So our agenda today, we're going to be going over our solution, industry dynamics, the problem, industry regulatory associations, showing the current ones in the industry and how we can mirror that into the ticketing industry, our implementation, our proposed timeline, a cost-benefit analysis, and any feedback. Our recommended solution. So, a verification initiative. We believe all ticket sellers should be verified through a step-by-step process, creating databases, setting up verification for sellers, partnering with banks while educating the consumer subconsciously. The verification process will work to make a private sector industry solution, introducing the AVTS, the Association of Verified Ticket Sellers, building an organic and subconscious understanding of verified ticket platforms through the buying process. The industry needs to work towards self-regulation while encouraging government to follow suit.
So basically, through our research, we found that the industry is an oligopoly. So the two largest firms, Live Nation and AEG, capture most of the industry market share with about 32.9% and 23.6% respectively, leaving all other firms to account for less than half of the market share. This leaves thousands of small, localized firms with limited representation. To address this issue, we decided to develop a verification initiative targeting ticketing challenges while also amplifying the voice of these smaller firms within the industry. So firms in the industry face issues pertaining to managing costs, differentiating themselves, and navigating the competitive landscape. The industry is characterized by strong supplier and buyer power, as well as high barriers to entry due to the high capital requirements. Suppliers and buyers influence ticketing, pricing, and operational costs, so firms must pay attention to consumer habits and demands while mitigating costs and exploring new technology. Therefore, success in the industry is contingent on adapting to new technology and consumer trends, managing costs, and forming strong relationships with performers, promoters, and suppliers. Another external factor that has a large impact on the performance of the industry is government regulation and processes. These make it difficult to pass a law regulating ticket pricing, so we should use the new technology that continues to innovate and expand the market to set up a new private firm, the AVTS as introduced by Ava, to certify and verify ticket sellers, removing fake tickets and bringing transparency to the market, hoping that the government will follow suit.
So, what are the risks of not regulating the ticket industry? So, have any of you ever been to an event where your ticket didn't scan? I don't know about you guys, but this definitely happened to me several times and my friends, and it is a common and frustrating experience, shared experience across all consumers in this industry. Fans are constantly getting ripped off. There are many different ticket resellers that are not verified or properly regulated. These resellers will sell a ticket to a fan before owning the actual ticket and could potentially sell the same ticket to several different people. And this is called speculative ticketing, as we heard in the previous presentation. And when that person then goes to check into the event, the ticket won't scan and they'll realize that they have just been scammed. With the prominence and ease of botting techniques, the number of websites reselling fake tickets has become a significant issue for consumers. So regulation across other industries. These are some examples of private regulatory associations, such as the American Association of Railroads, the New York Stock Exchange, the International Air Transport Association, and the Airline Reporting Corporation. And all of these exist to govern and regulate sales in their industries.
So we decided to focus on the International Air Transportation Association, IATA, which streamlines the process of air travel ticket sales through the Billing and Settlement Plan, BSP, a financial and administrative system that regulates collection. It centralizes transactions from multiple travel agencies, making it easier for airlines to manage payments. It also ensures transparency and accountability, reduces financial risk for both the airlines and consumers, with initiatives like ADA Easy Pay and other secure payment methods. It also helps mediate disputes between airlines and agents when it comes to ticketing using standardized procedures. In order to join BSP, IATA verifies travel agencies through its accreditation program, which ensures they meet the global standards for financial stability and professionalism. Accredited agents gain access to IATA's ticketing and settlement systems so they can directly issue tickets. IATA also sets global standards and practices for airlines regarding operations, safety, and security. It prioritizes sustained progress in these fields and uses data to improve performance in the face of growing challenges. It works with airlines, governments, industry stakeholders to regulate ticketing formats such as e-ticketing, as we hope to work with governments in the future. IATA also protects and creates values for airlines, agents, and consumers while fostering innovation, which is why we want to mirror the IATA with the Association of Verified Ticket Sellers to regulate ticketing and verification for the live venue industry.
So the big question is, how can we educate consumers? Is it through informational campaigns, ads, or even revert to traditional box office?
And so what we believe would most efficiently educate consumers would be through an integrative marketing strategy, which would integrate an informational campaign into the buying process itself. So to do this, we would first have to incorporate an association, potentially with the help of our professor, John Simpson, And this would be a multi-layered initiative with 3 main components: a database, a verification system, and partnerships with the banks. And so to start with the database, we would use outreach to encourage ticket sellers of all sizes to apply. And upon entering to the system, they would be assigned a tier based on credibility. Now, this primarily would focus on the ratio of chargebacks to the volume of sales, along with reviews and credibility. Next, for verification, we would give entries into the system a visual verification in the form of a top-line domain. So their website would now end with .ticket-org. And the reason we picked this is because our generation has been raised to trust the .org ending on websites. Starting in middle school, when we would write research papers, professors always would tell us that .org websites were the most trustworthy and credible. The next component would be a badge. This badge would be in line with the tier that you are assigned. And similar to restaurants, how they display their restaurant grading on the front door, if they have to do that, why shouldn't ticket sellers do the same with a badge on their website? And this goes in line with a Harvard business study that showed that consumers make purchases 95% of the time on subconscious decisions, meaning that most of our buying choices are driven by unconscious emotions and mental processes rather than conscious reasoning. So this whole verification system is to educate consumers so that they visually see things, and that will build into their subconscious going forward when buying tickets. And finally, we want to establish partnerships with the banks and the credit card companies. And by joining this association, they will be incentivized to know that there will be significantly less chargebacks. And there's nothing more frustrating for credit card companies than when dealing with chargebacks, which is often the consequence of buying fake tickets, getting scammed, or dealing with fraud. And on the back end, now when a consumer attempts to buy a ticket on a website that is not part of this association with a credit card that is associated with our association, they would receive an alert letting them know that they are attempting to buy a ticket from an unverified website. And that would also have a link which would then lead them back to the database with a list of verified platforms to buy tickets.
Thanks, Oliver. So now we just want to go over, what's the best way to go forward from here? We've kind of given you a small solution, and now what are the steps we can take going forward to, get this in action? And it all starts with a database. Now, maybe this means you hire an AU business entertainment intern to help you build this database. Maybe not, but either way, the goal here is to establish a list of verified independent venues and primary ticket sellers. That's the goal of the database. And from there, we can establish partnerships between those independent venues and banks, kind of like what Oliver was talking about. We want to make sure that banks and payment processing companies are aware of where those payments are coming from, not places like StubHub. Then we can go with our verification as well, and this is more of our consumer-facing approach. This is a little bit more in the marketing area for consumers. The seal that we're talking about, kind of you can see in the top right corner. That's one of the very few mock logos we came up with, but it's a seal and a custom domain that consumers can identify themselves. And this will link them back to which companies are in our database. Same with the .org domain as well. And the goal here, as Oliver explained, is to build that subconscious understanding. Now, what's the goal? Why are we doing this? We've heard from some great panelists as to why, but the overarching theme is that we want to keep ticket revenues in the pockets of artists, venues, and minimize as well the cost for consumers as well. The FTC last year reported generally there was $10 billion of fraud in the United States. Now, of that general fraud, there was around 16,000 reports of ticket scams that were obviously related directly to ticketing. Now, we don't have an accurate number for the value of those ticket scams as a whole, but we can estimate based on the average ticket scam value last year that this was around $5.7 to $6 million that was lost out from artist venues and was pushed onto the consumer. So ultimately, we believe that our solution of impacting a association like ABTS is a private sector solution. Now, we're not trying to hate on any legislative approaches here. We believe legislation is great, but one of the things that comes with legislation is it's very time-consuming, it's expensive, and it's slow. But one of the things we can do with AVTS right now is start impacting and enacting this solution right now. One of the things we've talked about with a professor as well is that legislation a lot of the times follows private sector solutions. So we believe that if we can start doing this right now, we may be able to help your legislation follow soon after. And now we'd like to open the floor up to a little bit of feedback as this is our interim presentation. We'd love to answer any questions as well, and thank you for letting us present today.
Stephen Parker, do you have any feedback?
I would like for all of you to come work for NIVA. That would be amazing. I can't afford you. One, I want to thank you. The mechanisms that you all come up with are brilliant, particularly the ticket verification piece. The examples of the organizations that you laid out, though, particularly the New York Stock Exchange, but also the Airline Association that you laid out, all of those are either backed up by either SEC regulations or by regulations that limit transferability between the ticket sales of airlines. Like, there are already governmental restrictions. So I guess my question is given that there are governmental restrictions that kind of force the private sector from a stock exchange to the airlines into working with those associations, what's the forcing mechanism for the ticket sellers to engage with this private sector solution?
Do you want to talk about the consumer reliability on the seal a little bit? Like how the consumer relies on the seal?
Well, I'd say a big part of it is that we're also trying to sort of do it the opposite way, that we're trying to build the association. A big part of it would honestly just be compliance by the venues that are a part of NIVA. It is obviously so many venues, so we're hoping that once we are able to form that association, then we can get that government backing and support.
Yeah, I just don't know how much of a forcing mechanism we can use at this point.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, I think if self-regulation were a possibility, the brokers would have done it already, and the secondary platforms would have done it. But what we see, and we talked about speculative tickets, what we see is that there's not even an accountability mechanism on StubHub itself to actually track whether the tickets are real or not. And I would say that if that is a basic step that they could take, and this is a big stretch from I think that this would work. I just don't think that the resellers or the brokers would voluntarily go along with these recommendations.
Yeah, I think one thing too is like part of this solution is not like telling StubHub that you can't exist, because I think a lot of people when they get scammed on StubHub, they don't even realize they're buying a speculative ticket. And at the end of the day, like with restaurants, there can be C-graded restaurants, and this initiative is that over time there will become more and more ticket sellers that join this association, and will be a free market, and also because of that they'll be rated, and then over time people will start gravitating towards the A-rated ticket sellers, or the A-graded restaurant, because they don't want to eat at a bad restaurant, or in ticket terms don't want to buy a speculative ticket. And this is basically just educating the subconscious of the consumer, and that over time they'll start looking for the signs like, okay, I'm on a ticket platform that has the .ticket.org, or I'm on a ticket seller that has that badge. And like StubHub can still exist, and the hope of this is that more and more people will stop shopping at StubHub and start, buying at these A-graded ticket sellers.
We're going to take one more comment from an industry expert, and then we're going to take a coffee break. Audrey.
I don't need a microphone.
Okay. Yeah. Audrey, you run a venue. You know these things.
But I'm always in the background. Well, thank you so much for all your time and attention to this. As I'm Audrey Schaefer with IMP, and I work, our company has 5 music venues in DC and Maryland altogether, which is why I came to you all desperate for new minds to attack this. Unfortunately, the folks who are putting the fake tickets or the abusive predatory tickets on don't care about a grade, because they morph into other entities. There's a ticket brokers conference. 1,100 people were sitting there. It was the most they've ever sold of people. The only thing they're trying to do is to scoop up the tickets before fans can, and they're successful because the computer systems allow that to happen. Nobody is, as was talked about before, enforcing the Bots Act law, either nationally or in states. So it's free reign for them. And so I wish they cared about a grade, but they don't. We saw one computer that was able to fake itself into being 1,000 different computers, 1,000 different people, 1,000 different credit cards. And that's the other challenge with the banks is there's a thing called virtual credit cards, which means that they use these credit cards that they just keep changing the numbers. Is this working?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And they use it just that one time. And so you can't catch them through the normal ways. And unfortunately, the amount of the abuse is way higher than was on that screen. I wish it was that. I think you had $5.7 million, at least a B. It should be $1 billion, I would think, because we were tracking speculative ticketing for our venues in just Washington, D.C., from January through October, and that was $31 million of fake tickets. That's just us. So it's a huge problem, and keep coming back with more ideas. And I think the other areas for consumer education, because we're trying, but it's really hard.
Thank you, Audrey. And again, thank you for entrusting our students with this huge problem. Like we've said, there's a trouble with the ticks, and we haven't quite been able to figure out what the solution is. But these guys are going to get a grade for what they just did. They do care about their grades. They're trying to graduate. So please thank them. Great job, guys. And great job, Professor Coffman. I know how much you've been spending time with your students on this. It's really great to see. It's very gratifying as a professor. Thank you all. If you could take a quick coffee break, and then we'll come back. We're due to come back in about 10 minutes.